Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Kyuuyaku Megami Tensei 2. Unfortunately, last time around we had a bit of a falling out with our old pal, Ryu, and he decided to go his own separate way from the party. But in his place, we now have the Witch of Tokyo Tower, Asuka, joining us, and she is going to serve as our long-term human partner for the rest of the playthrough. She also learns a wide list of magic spells. She learns more than Ryu does. Ryu's spell learning ability caps out past a certain point, whereas Asuka will keep learning spells all the way through to the end of the game. So, yeah, she is a bit more utility and healing oriented than Ryu was. Ryu had a lot of offensive abilities and a few utility ones, and I think he had a healing spell in there somewhere. Asuka's going to learn a lot more in terms of healing and utility magic, but every once in a while she will learn a powerful offensive spell that is good to use in a pinch as well. Much like Kyuuyaku Megami Tensei 1, in my opinion, offensive magic is a bit weak in this game just because there's not that much magic points to go around, and a lot of the time you're going to want to save that for healing and stuff like that, especially with restoration items being so few and limited in number. Yeah, you know, you can only find so many jewels and stuff like that, so... But yeah, we are going to need to do a bit of work in terms of catching her up to speed, though, because she only starts at level 7, and in terms of standard equipment, she doesn't come with anything too fancy, just a piece of armor that's okay, and a weapon that's okay. So, yeah, but other than that, we're also going to need to do a bit of work this episode. I decided to beef up the party just a little bit, do a little bit of recruiting and fusing, or at least see what I could do in the immediate area before we moved on. So you're going to see a little bit of that on the overworld map before we then decide to venture forth into the areas that we peeked in last episode, but we didn't decide to explore in depth. And I recommend that as soon as you can, you just go ahead and go through the story sequence that recruits Asuka, because you're going to want to get her leveled up and explore those areas with her. The more time you spend with Ryu, the more time you're wasting building up a character who really doesn't need the experience points because he leaves. And actually, I thought this would be a good time to maybe talk and reflect about that story sequence for a little bit here while I have the time, and we're just getting into new encounters that I wanted to show off. So, I'm sure I've already touched on this, but Kyuuyaku Megami Tensei 2 in many ways serves as the blueprint or the prototype of the mainline Shin Megami Tensei series that would come after. And I'm sure that's evident here for anyone who has played a mainline Shin Megami Tensei game before with what just happened in the last story sequence, where we end up traveling around with a friend for a bit, a companion of some kind that's helping us out, maybe is in the party, maybe isn't, but, you know, they're traveling with us and, you know, supporting us on our journey. And then for ideological differences, we end up separating, and there's a falling out that happens, and the party goes its separate ways. Now, I think Atlus maybe realized after this first attempt at doing this in one of their stories that it's not particularly effective as a story beat if it happens this early on, because that just kind of falls a little flat for me, and usually it tends to happen more towards the midpoint or towards the end of the game for later entries in the series, and I think that's maybe being able to spend a bit more time with those companions and getting to know them a bit better makes that more impactful than what we get here, where it feels like we barely get to know Ryu. And, you know, this is a simple game. There's not much in the way of characterization. We only get a little bit at the shelter, and we get that he's maybe a little cocky or hot-headed and really buys into the whole Messiah thing that Pazuzu's selling, but we don't really get to spend that time with him and really get to feel him as a member of the party before he just ducks out on us. And it just, I don't know, it doesn't work that well. There are some elements of the friend story that I do kind of resonate with, in a way that I actually don't resonate with in terms of the other mainline entries, actually, that I'll talk about later on when those story scenes come up. But the actual moment where the actual split in the party happens here is just so early that I almost find it comical. And I think it's good that they maybe went back to the drawing board on that for Shin Megami Tensei 1 and onward. But yeah, we ended up recruiting a Kelpie, and then fusing that Kelpie into a Fornius, who is a mainstay of the Megami Tensei series. Those of you who have played Nocturne may recognize Fornius as the first boss of that game's tutorial area, the hospital you start out in. God, I'm so excited for that Nocturne remaster. I think I've made it evident by now that I have a fairly complicated relationship with where Megami Tensei has gone as a series, but man, oh man, I'm excited for that Nocturne remaster, and it really gave me the kick I think I needed to maybe want to do a bit more in terms of video content for Mega 10 in general. So you can thank Nocturne HD for that, and God, I'm just so excited to play that game. It comes out in Japan, I think, less than a week now, so that's pretty cool. Curious to see people's thoughts and reactions to the remaster. I'm sure there's going to be a couple Western reviewers who import it or do whatever and can give off their impressions, so that'll be cool to see. So yeah, I decided to go back and buy Asuka a Uzi so that she can also deal some good splash damage, and we're gonna show that off here. Just go to town on these lobsters. Shoot them out of the sky. And Fornius actually too has Mazioma, which dealing pretty good damage. We might not even... Yeah, we don't even need to blow them out of the sky with our guns because we have the power of Mother Nature on our hands. Yeah, Mazioma, very powerful spell, especially this early on in the game. We can really just go to town on a lot of enemies that are susceptible to magic, which this early on is basically all of them. I wanted to show off some of the human enemies in this area too. Like I said, human enemies in this game really love putting you to sleep, and they almost always have really high speed stats too. If you're ever having difficulty fighting a mob in this game, or they're just being obnoxious, there is no harm in just running the fuck away, because there's, especially some of the mobs we're gonna run into in a few episodes from now, you're gonna start to get to demons that not only cast a lot of annoying like sleep and other types of status effects, but sometimes you'll just run into demons that like to heal themselves over and over again, and it's just a waste of your resources to even bother. You know, sometimes it's just better to not bother and just pick your battles wisely. So yeah, Asuka is going to, and I'm just grinding up for some cash here before we move forward too. Fornius is a good demon to use for this, so. But yeah, Asuka has, I believe, the same, I want to say the same formula for learning new spells that Yumiko did from Kyuuyaku Megami Tensei 1, where intelligence and level are both going to be your major contributing factors at play for learning a new spell. Your luck also matters a little bit too, but it's like, it's your luck stat divided by 4 or something like that. I'll flash the formula for learning new spells up on screen. But basically every single time you get to a new whole number, that's when Asuka will learn a new spell for you to use. And she has a lot of spells. I actually don't even think we're going to finish the game having learned them all, because it takes quite a bit of time to get those late-stage spells for her. So yeah, I've already established in this playthrough that equipment is actually gendered in this game, so we're actually going to be visiting different types of armor shops for Takuma and Asuka. And it actually has a somewhat interesting effect on the game where, especially later on, usually new towns will have one type of armor shop but not the other. So it kind of staggers out your armor upgrades in a way that isn't very similar to a lot of other RPGs of the time. So let's go ahead and equip the Conserva Mail and Demon Pumps. God. It's election season in America, and I've been getting a lot of unwanted Conserva Mail in my mailbox, if you know what I'm saying. Oh, God. This year's been really bad in particular for me in terms of, well, I guess robocalls have just been bad in general the past couple years, but, yeah, just, like, it feels like I've been getting more and more spam calls and just unwanted phone calls this year than any other than I can think of. I don't know if maybe, I mean, obviously part of it's due to the election here, at least, but I almost wonder if those types of organizations and groups have kind of tripled down on their efforts for like telemarketing and shit, just because they know more people are at home. But I feel like I've gotten more and more calls asking me to buy something or donate to something than I have in any other year I can think of, and it's been really annoying. Usually I'm nice and I'm just like not interested or leave me alone or whatever and hang up. But Yeah, I had a few times where people called and were like, oh, do you want to donate to the local police fund? And I usually say, fuck off, or leave me alone, and whatever, and get into it for a bit, and then hang up and waste their time, because, yeah, fuck that. Just not fun. If you... calling strangers on the phone to ask them to do things is never... No, stop. I mean, I know it works, it has to work, or else people wouldn't do it, but you're just... For the vast majority of normal people out there, you're just making yourself look like a massive asshole for wasting their time. It's not a good idea, folks. I hope we collectively as a society find a way to move past that phase. Say what you will about the invasiveness of social media marketing and online advertising and all that, but I think I'd still probably take that over people calling me on the phone and just wasting my fucking time, especially if I'm at work or something. Just annoying. That, I think that was the NPC that said something about ghosts coming out more at the new moon. I have no idea what the fuck that's supposed to mean, if I'm being completely honest with you, rather. I don't know if that means that you have a higher chance of running into spirit-type demons when there's a new moon out. I'm assuming that's what it means, but I've never really seen that claim verified anywhere, but that's just kind of the assumption I'm making. Let's talk to Jupiter, man. That's actually a fairly important tip that I'm kind of surprised is left to a drunk man here in a bar in the middle of Roppongi. That's actually a good tip too, and one that I kind of forgot about. I'm sure there's probably times in this Let's Play where I accidentally healed spirits by casting Zeo, because I forgot about that little tidbit. But yeah, just like any other Megami Tensei game, all the different elements will affect different types of demons in different ways, so just gotta keep an eye out for that, but it's not like later entries in the series where it matters as much as it does in, say, like Nocturne or anything with the press turn combat system. It's just a matter of, you know, typical RPG elemental weakness and resistance stuff. Explore around here a bit more. Yeah, those corpse piles are really, really something. Luckily, with your two Uzi wielding party members, they shouldn't be that much of an issue, but they come in massive mobs. Don't know what happened in Roppongi, where there's all these animated corpses everywhere, but, you know, rough times for Tokyo indeed. I think this is already, like, the third type of slime we've seen this playthrough. At least this one's golden. Kind of a unique-looking slime. Didn't really look gold as much as it did kind of just, like a weird, cheesy orange, but, you know, like orange-yellow, but good enough for gold, I guess. These things. Anytime you see a flower with lips in this playthrough, just, you don't want to deal with them. They tend to paralyze you and put you to sleep and do all sorts of bad status effect mumbo-jumbo that you really just don't want any part of. I'm surprised I even fought these things. Probably I did it because I wanted to show them off. They give you a pretty good amount of magnetite, though, at least. But yeah, anytime I see that specific sprite, I get upset. Because I know I'm never in for a good time. I don't know if I left Roppongi so I could heal or what my deal was here, but I decided to go out a bit and then come back, obviously. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I was grinding for more money so that we could grab the brain guard. I'm gonna start calling all helmets that. Your brain guard. Sounds sci-fi as fuck. Got an arm Vulcan, too. Turning Asuka into the Gundam Alex. And with Asuka fully kitted out, we are finally ready to start exploring that tunnel that we took a peek in last episode, but weren't able to fully explore just yet. Just a good idea to not go in through this part of the game until you get Asuka, or else you're you're basically wasting your time and wasting, you know, the more time you spend with Ryu, because you could go through a bit more of the game with Ryu before you go back and get Asuka, but why would you even bother? Because all of that experience points that you're putting into Ryu by adventuring further with him, you're just wasting that when they could be going to Asuka instead. So just a good idea to recruit Asuka as early as possible in the playthrough. We've reached Shibuya. It's a cool looking, not suspicious at all dog statue to the south there. Let's check out this building first. Guess we're not going in there. Go to the junk shop. See what cool stuff is in here. Couple of stones that we can use to cast offensive magic for free. But I don't really use the offensive magic items in this game all that much. Probably pretty powerful this early on, I have to imagine, though, so maybe not the worst thing to spend your money on, but I didn't bother. Another bar that we can talk to people in. Well, that sounds like a pretty good tip. Doesn't sound very intelligent to me, in my humble opinion. But yeah, actually, since we were just talking about how wasteful it is to go through this part of the game with Ryu, that just reminded me. Someone brought up in last episode's comment section, you know, they just asked, what happens in that Asuka conversation if you decide to side with Ryu? And to my knowledge, and feel free to correct me on this, to my knowledge, it actually varies depending on which version of the game you're playing. I believe in the original Famicom version, you'll actually get into a fight with her where she has maxed out stats and you'll just get a game over and have to, you know, restart and go back through. And I believe they changed that for Kyuuyaku, where what actually happens is she just kicks you out and then you can walk back in and reattempt the conversation. Yeah, there was actually, before this game got translated into English, there was a pretty pervasive rumor that one of the things they added to the Kyuuyaku re-release was a whole different route where you could side with the friend instead of the heroine and go through like a whole different alignment route, but that was just a rumor that somehow spawned in the English fandom for some strange reason. Interesting how long those can last, even into the internet age when you don't have the thing fully translated. And also, before that NPC, I never knew before playing this game. I'm sure this was common knowledge and everyone knew this except for me, because of how simple it is. But I never knew that if you added up the opposite sides of a die, that you'll end up getting 7. Just never occurred to me. So yeah, like that hint says, you're going to need at least 7 intelligence points, at least for the main character. I think you maybe need 7 intelligence in Asuka as well, but she is your magic user, so you should be using, you should probably be using intelligence, and leveling her up that way anyways. But yeah, it's easy to ignore intelligence for your main character, so just make sure you have at least 7 intelligence before going into this fight, or else I believe it won't even, you can't even fight this boss. So just something to look out for, but luckily, because we're min-maxing, we got more than enough intelligence on hand. Yeah, this place's layout is fairly simple. Kind of hard to get lost. I'm not even using Mappara. I think it's technically even smaller than the Princess Hotel was. Yeah, if you go in here with a fairly large party, you'll be fine. Especially it helps if you have a couple of powerful demons, or at least one. Like we have Fornius here, who is doing a pretty good job as acting as a frontline demon who is taking damage for us, and we can always rely on that Mazioma to clear out a mob in a pinch, so we have plenty of MP for that. Goblin just barely survived that encounter. Yeah, Goblin's a little weak for this area, same with Alround too, but Fornius is plenty fine. And this is actually a treasure chest you're going to want to go and grab. So we just picked up this Animaran that is an ingredient for something that we're going to want to bake up later for getting something kind of cool later on in this Let's Play. If you end up missing it on your first trip here, you can always go back and grab it again, so don't feel bad if you went through this area and beat the boss without grabbing it. You can always make a return trip. A little annoying, though, because it's a little out of the way, but it's not too bad. And we got Buckaboo, new ally. Check out this thing's stats. We'll summon it first, now we can check out its stats. You don't need to summon it to check out its stats, but, you know, got a little gung-ho. Has Bufurama, but it doesn't really have the stats to support it as a major, like, magic caster, really, but, you know, it helps. And 70 HP is fairly good for this point in the game, too, so... Just healing up the party. And that should be fine. Yeah, running low on MP for Asuka, unfortunately, but what can you do? Check out what's up here, second floor. So, there's a reason that you need to grab the heroine to progress in the story, and you can't go through the rest of the game with Ryu. And this NPC, of all things, is the gatekeeper. That man will not accept a massage from anyone except for Asuka. That is the reason why you need to recruit Asuka to progress in this game's story. Very, very silly, I know. That's just how it is. So yeah, we're gonna need to grab that seal to progress later on. Use that turtle friend of ours to cross a broken bridge. I believe this is the first accessory we have obtained. Yeah, you have that etc. section in the equipment menu where you can equip stuff to your back and to your face. They're fairly rare equipment that you actually can get from Codebreaker if you do really well in that, and pick them up in random chests and stuff like that. And they just usually add on a bit more, you know, armor points or whatever for your defense. And I believe some of them later on in the game can do stuff like halve the damage you take from certain elements and cool stuff like that, but not, you know, it helps, but it's not as effective as the other pieces of armor that you can just buy from the shops. So if you miss out on one, nothing too much to worry about. We finally got to Reg's shop in this game, so we're going to trade up that membership card we got from KMT1, and we got the Hide Run. So as Reg explains here, the Hide Run is actually the best healing item in the game. Don't use it. If you hold on to it, you can get something really cool later on that I will show off, but yeah, it's really, really cool. And it would be a waste to use it now. Just be patient and hold off. So yeah, if you have a different gemstone, you can exchange that for one of 3 different options. Most of them are honestly not that useful. What I will say is useful is you can get an emergency exit. You can get that Petronon, which you may have noticed that was what that thing we picked up in the treasure chest earlier is an ingredient for Petronon, the Amaran or whatever it was called. Don't bother getting it here though. I would say it's a better deal to get the emergency exit because we got that other thing from the you know, we got the ingredient for Petronon. We can make our own Petronon, but the emergency exits are harder to come by. So it says exactly what it sounds like. You'll use it when you're in a dungeon, and it'll warp you right back out to the entrance. Very useful thing to have, especially early on in the game. Later on, we'll get a spell that essentially does that for Asuka, but we have to, we're gonna have to level up a fair bit more before we even get that far. So, yeah, I highly recommend you grab an emergency exit, and then also later on in the game, I believe we'll get the emerald that will, or what is it? It's aquamarine, amethyst, and emerald, and whatever. One of them will allow you to grab some core shields, which basically prevents you from taking damage from damaged tiles, which is very useful for a specific dungeon we'll get to later. So, So yeah, emergency exits and core shields are the two really useful things that you're going to want to grab from Rag's shop here. And yeah, we are intelligent enough to pass through here. Like I said before, if your intelligence stat isn't high enough, you're not going to be allowed in here. You're going to have to grind up a bit. And all these people say the same thing. One thing that this game does, actually, speaking again to its kind of more prototype nature for the types of stories Atlus would go on to tell with the series, this game does the trope a lot where you'll go into a place and it's a big demon that's in charge of everything and everyone else is being brainwashed. And that's fine, you know, that's okay, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I find it less interesting than going into a place and there's a big demon in charge and the humans are, like, serving that demon of their own will. Like, that's kind of, it's in support of their worldview, and they really have bought into it from their own accord and own free will. I think that's just a more interesting story to tell, and I think that's something that Atlus would eventually kind of figure out and realize was maybe a bit more interesting or tragic in its own way. To have all of these free-minded people decide, like, oh no, I like what this demon, I like what this demon is selling here, and kind of buy into it and support them of their own free will. So yeah, Lord Balaam is actually not that rough of a fight if you prepare for it, but if you go in and you maybe don't have great armor, I can see it probably being a bit trickier, especially because, like I said, Asuka only starts at level 7 when you get her, so you're going to want to put a few points into Vitality probably for her, and get all of the armor you can. She'll probably take a fair bit of damage if you aren't careful, and that can be tricky to deal with, so go in with a full party if you can, and it should be a long fight, but one that isn't insurmountable. But I'd say, for what it's worth, it's probably the most difficult boss fight so far in the game. You know, you got the one with the Necromancer Neighboros in the shelter that you need to grind up for a bit, and you got the Jabberwock, but even, at least with the Jabberwock, you have the you have Orthrus to help you out here, or help you out there, but this guy, the game kind of stops holding your hand a bit, and you just gotta figure this one out for yourself. So make a pretty decent party and whittle away at it. Be mindful of your HP, and you'll go down in no time. Really like the design too. The three-headed thing going on here is pretty neat looking. Nice backdrop for the boss fight too. This altar looking thing, or the sanctuary that we have behind him. That's a lot of experience points too, which is good news for Asuka. She might even level up multiple times here. Let's see. We reached triple digits with our main character's HP. That's nice. Yeah, she got 3 points. That's pretty cool. And we got a pillar, which we learned about earlier this episode. So yeah, this first half of the game is going to be a lot of hunting for those pillars, which is a fun little scavenger hunt for our party to go on. So yeah, we saved the city, or town, or whatever you want to call this. Not sure how big post-apocalyptic Shibuya it really is. Kind of hard to tell. And yeah, some NPC dialogue changes here, some of them don't. Like that old guy says the same thing. This one is very funny though. I just wasn't smart enough. Oh well. Better luck next time. But yeah, that wraps up this episode of Let's Play Kyuuyaku Megami Tensei 2. See you next time.